So, what I experience as the apocalypse, like, what was it like inside the apocalypse during the period of that's in the Bible, but here inside the United States of America. At one point in life, I was so depressed, so alienated, so isolated that I thought that God hated me the most. I thought that just because I was shunned and harassed by all these satanic people inside the federal government, I thought there was something wrong with me. And so I prayed one time and I was asking God, like, why do you hate me so much? And God sent out like 7 angels to me, and I had this vision of what was it like, how God is going to punish everybody as a whole. And it took me a while to put the puzzles together. It was just right on. There wasn't any encrypted information. There was nothing like that. Like, God told me exactly what he wanted to show me. So inside this, I think it was a different timeline or time split or something, but it was real. It was like the most real thing I have ever experienced, better than VR experience, HD and all that stuff, because it was very, very real. I could feel it, I could smell it, I could breathe in the air, I could hear everything, I could see everything clear. Everything was just super clear. So this angel, it was just super serious, like he showed me the reason of everything, but like in the most serious, angry facial and voice expression I've ever felt somebody show me that way. That was just like, here's what's going to happen to all of those people. And so I was just like, I just stood still and listening. And apparently the GMO, the food, pesticide, genetic engineering that people have been doing for a while, as well as changing the whole dynamic of food in society as well as nature. There's going to be some kind of magnetic force, some kind of solar storm, some kind of blackout, or some kind of like during the day the sun is going to be gone for like a couple of days, right? And because this magnetic distortion in nature, the animals became extremely agitated. The biocells in Earth sphere started changing and developing differently, and parasites and things and pests, everything started becoming supercharged almost. Like, these parasites became extremely more intelligent. Like, whatever magnetic field we have right now on Earth protects all of us here from the nature, from nature going haywire, basically. So whenever we change something, and this magnetic field that keep all of us sealed tight on this planet, if that's disturbed, then everything become extremely supercharged. I mean, come in terms of genetic mutations and all sorts of stuff like that. So this angel showed me all of this in a scientific term. That's why it took me a while to figure out, like, what, I don't know science, but then later I started picking up on everything. People in real life started showing me all these stuff, so I could figure out what it was. But then after this angel showed me all the scientific research, he took me into when it was really happening inside the United States of America and all over the world as well. Animals, your house pet, became extremely agitated and started attacking you because they thought it was you who was messing with them. cats, house pets, and everything just started attacking people. And the parasites that lives on people's bodies became extremely more aggressive, like some kind of dormant parasite, or some kind of GMO that was put into nature became supercharged, and it went into people's brain, and whatever pesticide, whatever chemical that they use started mutating inside people's bodies with the people's DNA. So it affected people's brains. So people were like, this angel took me inside this person, and that person's brain was like a zombie. Like, have you ever seen somebody with Alzheimer's, but like supercharged Alzheimer's? Like, people forgot completely who they were. And they were like people's neighbors. They would open the door and they would just walk outside the neighborhood, and they would not know where their houses were. They would not know what their names were. People got lost in the woods and died of heat exhaustion, heat strokes. People died of cold weather. People had poison eye leaf all over their bodies, blisters everywhere, their bodies and faces and everything. And people were walking inside other people's houses thinking that they were theirs, and people started shooting one another because they thought it was people trying to steal their house and stuff like that. So the government lost control of civilization. Like the police officers, firefighters, and everything you can think of, they couldn't know how to respond because even their people were infected with this stuff. So police officers were just trying to help people, but they would forget what they were doing. So they would help another person, they would forget what they were doing. They would help another person, they would forget what they were doing. So people just started walking around the neighborhood. You would see like thousands upon thousands of people just mumbling to themselves and walking around in the woods and just everywhere. And then the military started putting people inside stadiums, these giant stadiums, and when they were putting people inside the stadium, that was the most terrifying experience I've ever felt in my entire life, because some of the nurses that were there, they had a full hazmat suit on them with air purifier and all that, but there was like only one or two of them that were normal. So they were trying to feed people, but they didn't know how to feed hundreds and thousands of people if they didn't know when they were full or hungry. And so people were inside the stadiums. They were just all stuck to the chair like this, full of blister, poison eye leaf, hyperthermia, heat stroke, and all sorts of horrible things that happened to people. They were screaming on the stadium like, help, 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 and that's all they knew how to say was help, 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 help. Thousands upon thousands of people inside the stadiums screaming help, 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 because they were forgetting everything that they were saying. So all they knew was help, 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 please help, I'm hungry, I'm starving, and this and this and that. And they were forgetting, they would keep repeating. Basically the zombies in the stadium, they were all training one another to say the same thing, like help, 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 I'm starving, 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 help, like screaming on top of their lungs with blisters and mud, and the people that were lost for days in the woods, with people with bitten off arms by wild animals, and these nurses they were freaking out. They were just the most terrified nurses I've ever seen in my life. Some nurses that didn't want to help because they were so afraid of helping, because they thought they were going to catch some kind of bioweapon, some kind of bio diseases that was in the air. So these angels, there was 7 angels around me. They were protecting me, and they were showing me. They took me into the place, and they took me into a parking space, and I looked up in the sky, and they had those night lights, like the military had those big old lights, those everywhere. Like it was like so powerful that it would show exactly where they were at night, like those big old beam of lights that were everywhere. So if an airplane would fly over, they could see where their base was. So that's how they put all these beams of lights everywhere. And all I could hear was help, 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 and a fog, like this massive fog, because the military was just throwing people in a cremation, like these giant cremation tubes. They were taking thousands upon thousands of dead bodies and just throwing in a cremation sites, like, because they didn't want the disease to spread. And there was like this giant fog outside the stadium, and people inside the stadium screaming for help, 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 help. The most terrifying scene I ever seen in my life. And then some people who didn't have these parasites were not, like some people were normal. So I was walking around them, and people were just helping one another. They were just whispering to one another, like, let's go to Home Depot and get some like stuff. Maybe we can like build a little safe space for all of us, because if the military catches, they're gonna make us work for them, because the military were short-handed. So people were pretending to be zombies in order to escape the military to begin with, because the military was targeting people that were normal. So people in society, they had all these black hoodies, and they would walk amongst all these people that were lost in the cities. And basically the military was just going in there. They were looking for any signs of intelligence, basically, within society, in order to capture those people, to make them work, to capture all these people that were brain dead, basically. And so people were just like, they would park a van at night with all the lights off at Home Depot. And then they had these people with the hoodies. They had bolt locks. They would snap the door open, and they would take as much supply as possible. They would put inside the van, and they would sleep inside the van for a while to get intelligence of what the military was doing during the day. So they had a weird sleep schedule where they were just, they were all stealing as much as they could in order to survive. And it was all dark, and it was just terrifying. The most terrifying scene I ever seen in my life. And that's how God is going to punish all of us for turning a blind eye. I think that once we turn the blind eye against God, God is going to turn the blind eye against all of us that keeps nature and society sealed in. He's just gonna let all the beasts, all the devil's creation to go loose, and that's gonna completely destroy your bodies. It's gonna be absolutely brutal. And God said, like, you don't have to get revenge yourself. Like, I'm gonna do it myself in the most terrifying way unimaginable. Like, if you think you're lonely now, like, wait until you see thousands upon thousands of people lost in the woods with Alzheimer's, millions of people with not just Alzheimer's, but some kind of weird brain chemical imbalance in their brain. But whatever magnetic field that's protecting Earth is maintaining this place from going chaotic. And that's what God showed it to me.